The void of space was calm, deceptively calm, when the first flicker appeared on the sensors of the Imperial flagship Dominion. Admiral Veyron, a veteran of hundreds of campaigns across the spiral arm, leaned forward, squinting at the display as a cold knot of unease tightened in his chest. The blips on the screen didn't match anything in Imperial archives, nothing in the vast catalog of known starship classes, nothing that could have emerged from the hundreds of conquered systems. Yet the readings were real, undeniable, and growing more distinct by the second. "Sir?" Lieutenant Kor's voice trembled slightly, betraying the same disbelief that gripped every officer on the bridge. "There's something out there. Something big." Veyron's eyes narrowed. "Define big, Lieutenant. How big?" The console spat out data at a rate that would have overwhelmed most officers. But Kor's fingers danced across the holographic interface. "By our estimates, it's larger than our heaviest dreadnoughts. Its mass, it's..." She paused, swallowing hard. "It's unlike anything we've cataloged. It's irregular, organic almost. Its hull structure is alive." The bridge descended into uneasy murmurs. Organic warships were a concept relegated to science fiction, to the absurd tales of primitive civilizations trying to dream themselves into superpower status. The Empire had fought AI-controlled fleets, rogue cyborg legions, and even weaponized black holes, but never had they faced a vessel that seemed alive in the truest sense. "Bring it up on the main screen," Veyron ordered, his voice tight. "I want visual confirmation." The central holo display shifted, pulling a deep black of interstellar space into sharp relief. And then it appeared, a silhouette larger than any starship in the Imperial arsenal, carving through the void with a terrifying silent authority. Its surface glimmered with metallic panels interwoven with strange fibrous patterns, moving, twisting, almost like muscle under skin. No lights, no markings, no insignia of any Empire colony or alien faction. Yet there it was, undeniably massive, impossibly fast, and radiating a level of energy that made the Dominion's shields hum in alarm. Admiral Veyron felt a hand clench the arm of his chair. What is that?" he murmured, almost to himself. The crew around him were pale, eyes wide as they scanned readings that seemed to defy physics itself. Weapons outputs were off. The charts, but not in the usual sense of power. They were intelligent, adaptive. Its propulsion wasn't simply a drive system. It seemed to flow with a rhythm, a heartbeat in the fabric of space-time. "Impossible," Kor whispered, though loud enough for nearby officers to hear. "The energy patterns, they resemble nothing in the Empire database. And yet, the Kor signature is familiar, almost human." The words hung in the air like smoke. A human warship? The concept was laughable. Humans had been a minor race on the outskirts of the galaxy, barely scraping together colonies before the Empire assimilated or destroyed them. No human vessel could project power on this scale. No human technology could compete with Imperial dreadnoughts, capable of pulverizing entire planetary defenses in hours. Yet here it was, a single silhouette commanding the void, and every sensor screamed with a truth Veyron could not deny. It was human, or at least, it bore some unmistakable human design in its engineering, twisted and magnified into something terrifyingly advanced. The first warning shot came without any human order. The Dominion's forward battery locked on and fired a test. Salvo, bright, searing bursts of plasma meant to probe the ship's defenses. The human vessel didn't dodge or retaliate immediately. Instead, it absorbed the energy, its hull rippling as if tasting the fire, learning from it. The console blinked frantic warnings. Systems designed to predict evasive patterns failed, their algorithms thrown into chaos. "Shields holding, barely," one officer reported, voice taut. "But the enemy..." He stopped, unable to describe the sight. The massive vessel's surface flexed, a lattice of light and energy coursing over it like veins, rearranging itself with a precision that made even Veyron's seasoned mind reel. It wasn't just advanced technology, It was art and biology fused into a weapon of unimaginable power. The Admiral took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm. Alert the High Council. Inform every fleet in the sector. Prepare the secondary battle formations. And maintain visual. I want to know every movement of this ship, every pulse of energy it emits. A hush fell over the bridge. No one dared speak, save for the low hum of sensors and the occasional blip of communications trying, and failing, to penetrate the mystery before them. It was as if the void itself held its breath, watching the encounter unfold. Then, without warning, a tremor of sound, not sound in space, but a psychic reverberation that seemed to crawl into every officer's mind, echoed from the alien warship. It was a roar, guttural and commanding, filled with a vitality that shouldn't have existed in a machine. The crew recoiled instinctively, and even the Admiral's seasoned instincts flared with alarm. The human ship was not merely a vessel. It was alive, aware, and somehow cognizant of the Empire's terror. "Report," Varen demanded, voice firmer now, forcing control over his own racing pulse. Lieutenant Kor's fingers flew over the console, eyes glued to the erratic streams of data. "Sir, it's analyzing us, our formations, our energy signatures. It's learning faster than any AI we've deployed. Every countermeasure we try, it adapts before we can execute it." The Admiral's jaw tightened. He had commanded fleets that had wiped out entire star systems, had crushed rebellions, routed alien navies, and outsmarted entire species. Yet, for the first time in decades, he felt the icy grip of fear claw at his chest. This was not a tactical problem. It was a paradigm shift. The human race, thought insignificant, had suddenly become a force that challenged every law of warfare the Empire had relied upon for centuries. And then, a new detail emerged. On the hull of the ship, partially obscured by energy currents, flickered a strange emblem. It was primitive, crudely etched into the metal but unmistakably human. It was the kind of symbol a colony might carve, a mark of identity in the dark expanses of space. Yet this mark was on a warship of incomprehensible scale and sophistication. The contradiction was maddening. How could something so primitive possess power so advanced? Varen felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. "Prepare a full scan of that emblem. I want every database cross-referenced. Now." As the crew scrambled to comply, the ship moved with sudden acceleration, its bulk shifting gracefully, almost predatorily, toward the Dominion. The sensors flared red as energy signatures surged and warped around it. The human warship had not fired a shot, and yet the Dominion system screamed as though under direct assault. Something about its presence alone was destabilizing, as if it could unmake the Empire's technological supremacy merely by existing in the same space. Varen swallowed hard. His fingers tightened around the armrests. Helm, evasive vectors ready, shields to maximum. We are not engaging. Not yet. We wait. We watch. And we pray that our scouts return in time with answers. But deep in his mind, he knew the truth. Whatever was out there, it had already rewritten the rules of the game. And the Empire, for all its might and history, had no idea how to respond. The ship loomed closer, silent yet deafening, alive yet mechanical, human yet impossibly alien. The void of space, once calm, now crackled with anticipation, as though the galaxy itself sensed the birth of something that could change everything. And in that moment, Varen understood the terrifying truth. The humans had arrived, and the Empire was utterly unprepared for what they were about to unleash. The sensors blinked again. Another anomaly appeared near the human warship, something moving, or maybe emerging from within it. A ripple of dread passed through the bridge. Whatever this was, it was far from over. Lieutenant Kor's hands flew across the control panels as the Dominion sensors struggled to make sense of the massive human warship. Every reading contradicted the last. Its propulsion systems didn't obey any known laws of physics, and yet the ship moved with deadly precision. It was as if it anticipated every calculation the Empire's AI could make, every countermeasure the fleet could deploy. "Sir?" Kor murmured, her voice trembling. "Its energy signature. It's not just immense. It's a Adaptive. Every time we try to predict its trajectory, it changes. It's learning from us, faster than anything we've ever seen. Varen felt his stomach tighten. He had faced rogue fleets, black hole weapons, even alien intelligences that could manipulate gravity itself. And yet none of them had approached this level of threat. Adaptive? He asked, forcing himself to focus. Explain, Lieutenant. I need specifics. Kor's eyes didn't leave the display. It's shields. Every time we hit it with energy pulses, the shields reconfigure themselves instantly. It's absorbing the energy, rerouting it, and using it to reinforce the hull. And the weapon output. It's like it's analyzing our firepower in real time. Every test shot we've taken, it's memorized, and now it's prepared for a full assault. Sir, it's thinking. The word hung in the air, heavy with impossibility. Humans were a species known for resilience and ingenuity, but thinking warships, that had been the stuff of myth. Yet the evidence was impossible to deny. Across the bridge, officers shifted uneasily, exchanging worried glances. Even the most seasoned veterans, those who had fought countless wars across the stars, seemed unable to process the reality in front of them. Varen swallowed hard. Prepare the fleet for defensive formations. Divert all power to shields. We are not engaging until we understand what we're dealing with. Core scan for life forms on board. Every crew, every inhabitant. I want to know who or what is controlling that ship. The lieutenant nodded, fingers flying across the console. Scanning. Scanning. It's unusual. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of life forms aboard, but their neural patterns are intertwined with the ship's systems. It's as if the ship itself is alive and conscious, and the crew are part of it. Their minds are linked to the ship directly in real time. Sir, this is beyond anything in our databanks. It's organic intelligence merged with technology. A low murmur rippled across the bridge. Life forms integrated into a warship? The implications were staggering. The Empire had fought countless alien species and mastered countless technologies, yet this was unprecedented. Varen's mind raced. If a single human warship could operate like this, how many others might exist, hidden, evolving in secret across the galaxy? Suddenly, a ripple of energy washed across the Dominion's sensors, almost like a heartbeat. The human warship shifted in the void, moving with fluid grace, dodging a probe missile before it had even fully launched. Every Imperial system designed to track and predict its movements was thrown into chaos. It's too fast, too precise, Kor said, voice barely audible. Sir, it's not just learning from us. It's anticipating us, adapting before we even act. Varen's knuckles whitened as he gripped the arms of his chair. Prepare a countermeasure, any available method. Use predictive algorithms, neural nets, whatever you have. Fire everything we've got if necessary, but do not engage blindly. Understand this. We are not facing a human ship in any traditional sense. This is evolution manifested. The officers scrambled to comply. The ship's communications officer, pale and sweating, reported, Sir, the enemy is transmitting. We can't decipher the language, but the pattern, it's neural. It's speaking directly to our systems. Varen frowned. Neural transmissions? Explain. It's interacting with our AI, our sensors, even our targeting systems. The signals bypass our encryption. It's rewriting our algorithms in real time, sir. It's teaching itself through our fleet. The Admiral took a deep breath, trying to calm his rising panic. He had commanded fleets that could obliterate entire star systems, had outmaneuvered alien civilizations with centuries of combined experience, yet he felt powerless for the first time in his life. This was not just a ship, it was a force capable of rewriting the rules of war. Every Imperial protocol, every tactical doctrine, was being shredded by a single massive human vessel. Status report on the fleet, Varen demanded. His voice tight. The tactical officer's voice was strained. Shields holding, sir, but the energy readings from the human vessel are destabilizing our systems. Propulsion is fluctuating, weapons are misfiring. Every time we adjust, it adapts. If this continues, we could lose operational control of half the fleet before the first volley is fired. Varen's jaw clenched. He had to think, had to act. But every instinct in his being screamed that nothing he had ever known could prepare him for this. Lieutenant Kor, initiate full-spectrum reconnaissance. Find a weakness. Every module, every hull section, every life form aboard that ship. I want every possible angle analyzed. And keep your eyes open for deception. Humans are unpredictable. Kor nodded, typing furiously. Scanning. There's something, sir. I can't describe it fully. It's like the ship itself is aware of the scan. Every time I probe a section, the structure changes. The internal configuration is alive, organic. It adapts to the scan in real time. It's laughing at us, sir, metaphorically speaking. A murmur ran through the bridge. Laughing? The ship was alive enough to mock them? It was unthinkable. Yet the readings confirmed it. The vessel was not a machine to be destroyed, not a simple assembly of metal and energy. It was a living organism with intelligence and intent. Suddenly, a pulse of energy shot through the Dominion, not directed as an attack, but more like a probing sensation, a wave of pressure that rattled systems and sent alarms blaring. It's testing us. Kor shouted, eyes wide. Sir! It's learning about our weaknesses. It's studying our fear. Varen stared at the screen, mind racing. He had heard tales of human ingenuity, of their stubbornness and adaptability, but he had never imagined this level of sophistication. A living, thinking warship operated by humans in perfect symbiosis. It was more than the Empire had ever anticipated, and more than any of his officers could comprehend. And then, as if to punctuate its dominance, the human warship shifted again, faster than any Imperial calculations could predict, coming closer to the fleet. Its hull pulsed with energy, an unearthly light that reflected across the bridge and painted the faces of the officers with fear. And then a new data spike hit the Dominion systems, something unprecedented. A neural signature that seemed to resonate with the minds of the crew. Varen froze, a chill running down his spine. Report, what is that? It's connecting, sir, Kor whispered. Not just to the ship, but to our minds. It's communicating, not through language, but through thought. Every officer on this bridge is feeling it. Fear, certainty, awareness. It's invasive and yet precise, calculated. The Admiral felt a wave of dread, but also a spark of grim fascination. For the first time in his long career, he was facing a human threat that was not merely clever or cunning. It was terrifyingly evolved. A species that had merged intelligence, technology, and biology into a weapon beyond comprehension. And in that realization, he understood one terrifying truth. The Empire might not survive this encounter, at least not without understanding, adapting, and acknowledging a species it had long underestimated. A sudden flicker on the sensors caught his eye. The human ship was no longer static, no longer merely approaching. They were moving in a pattern, deliberate and coordinated, almost as if anticipating every Imperial maneuver. Sir, Kor said, voice tight. It's preparing for an engagement.
But it's
not aggressive. Not yet. It's calculating, waiting for the perfect moment. Varen's heart raced. Alert the fleet. Stand ready. But do not fire unless fired upon. This is unprecedented. We must observe, we must survive, and we must understand. This is not just a warship. This is a revolution in motion. And with that, the Dominion and the fleet watched, breath held. As the human vessel loomed ever closer, an impossible fusion of life and technology, intelligence and instinct, power and fear. A single pulse from that ship could destroy them all, or teach them how utterly unprepared they truly were. The void of space, once cold and indifferent, now seemed to pulse with life. And at the center of it, the human warship moved with deadly intent and silent authority, waiting to reveal what humans were truly capable of. A sudden ripple of distortion washed through the fleet as the human warship initiated its transmission. It wasn't just a standard comm signal. It was a deep, resonant vibration that made the metal hulls of Imperial ships hum with low-frequency echoes. On the bridge of the Dominion, the lights flickered, consoles sparked, and an eerie human voice emerged through the static. This is Captain Elric of the United Terran Armada, the voice said, calm, precise, and utterly confident. You have entered restricted space. Stand down immediately. Every officer froze. Varen's blood ran cold. The voice was unmistakably human, but it carried something more. A weight of authority that reached beyond words. It wasn't a plea or a warning. It was a declaration of dominance. The bridge fell silent except for the faint hum of the ship's power system straining to maintain stability. Captain Elric, Varen muttered under his breath. He knew that name from intelligence briefings, whispers buried in classified reports. A human commander who had vanished during the early colonial wars, presumed dead. If the stories were true, Elric had been one of the most brilliant tacticians humanity ever produced. But he had disappeared centuries ago. He couldn't possibly be alive now. "Respond," Varen ordered, forcing his voice steady. "Open a channel. Identify our fleet. We are the Imperial Navy of the Galactic Sovereign. You will stand down and submit to inspection under section—" Before he could finish, the human voice interrupted, sharp as a blade. "No, you don't give orders here anymore." The transmission cut abruptly, and for a split second, every system aboard the Dominion went dark. The stars vanished from the viewport, the air thick with static. Then, the main holo display flickered to life, and what they saw froze their blood. The human ship was moving, but not in the linear, predictable fashion of an engineered vessel. It was fluid, alive, its massive body twisted in the vacuum, flexing and contracting like muscle tissue beneath armor. Blue-white energy coursed through, its hull in patterns that seemed to pulse like veins, alive with purpose. Then it struck. The first attack came without warning, a blast of light so fast the sensors couldn't register it before impact. A nearby Imperial cruiser vanished in a flash of energy, its hull vaporizing before the crew could even scream. The shockwave rocked the Dominion, knocking officers off balance. "Shields at 80%, someone shouted. "They're using something we can't track. It's like it's bending space," Core interrupted, eyes wide. "Sir, it's not firing conventional weapons, it's manipulating the fabric of the void itself. They're folding micro-singularities into our fleet formation." Varen gritted his teeth. "Counter with phase shields. Adjust to harmonic pattern 7. Fire return volley." The fleet obeyed instantly. Plasma lances, ion torpedoes, and beam weapons tore through the darkness toward the human ship. But the warship moved with inhuman grace. It dodged, not mechanically, but intuitively, as if it knew where the attacks would land before they were even fired. Each volley passed through empty space where the target had been milliseconds before. The Dreadnought-class warship was dancing through death itself. "How are they anticipating us?" Varen demanded. Core's voice shook. "They're reading our targeting arrays, sir. Every calculation we make, every decision we input, it's being analyzed and countered in real time. Their system is faster than ours by orders of magnitude." The hologram before them shifted again as the human vessel approached the vanguard. With a single motion, the warship unleashed a wave of pure energy that didn't destroy the next cruiser. It rewrote it. The metal shimmered, twisted, and reformed into fragments of glass-like debris, scattered into the void. The crew didn't even have time to scream. On the Dominion, the bridge erupted into chaos. Officers barked overlapping commands, alarms blared, and Varen's mind raced through years of experience, searching for something, anything, that could match this enemy. Then came the strangest thing yet. The warship's hull began to shift and divide, splitting into segments that detached, unfurling like wings. Each segment pulsed with light before separating completely, forming new vessels, smaller but equally deadly. "By the stars," Core whispered. "It's replicating. It's splitting its biomass into autonomous units." "Sir, it's multiplying." Varen stared, unable to tear his gaze from the impossible sight. The smaller ships moved with the same coordinated intelligence as the main vessel, spreading out to surround the Imperial fleet in perfect formation. Their movements weren't random. They were strategic, mathematical precision in motion. It was a swarm, but with the discipline of a single mind. "Fire everything," Varen roared. "All batteries, all wings, now!" The void erupted with light as the Imperial fleet unleashed its full fury. Thousands of missiles streaked across space, guided by cutting-edge AI. Massive beams of plasma burned holes through the darkness. For a moment, the sheer brilliance of the attack drowned out all else. But when the light faded, the fleet gasped. The human ships were still there, untouched. The energy from the attack had been absorbed, redirected, even reflected in some cases. The humans had turned the Empire's own firepower into fuel. A harsh realization gripped Varen's mind. They weren't simply fighting an enemy, they were feeding it. The communications officer turned, pale as ash. "Sir, the fleet's morale is collapsing. Ships are breaking formation. They're terrified." Varen slammed his fist against the armrest. Hold the line. The Empire does not retreat. But even he could hear the fear in his own voice. Then the main screen flickered again. A figure appeared, human, unmistakably human. Captain Elric stood tall, clad in a dark exo uniform marked with the same emblem seen on the ship's hull. His eyes glowed faintly with artificial light, pupils surrounded by rings of circuitry. "Admiral Varen," Elric said smoothly, as if they were old acquaintances meeting after centuries apart. "You've always prided yourself on your empire's superiority. But superiority is not a matter of domination, it's a matter of adaptation. And humanity has adapted." Varen glared at the image. "You speak of adaptation, but all I see is abomination. Whatever you've done to yourselves, it's no longer human." Elric smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But tell me, Admiral, how many species did your empire enslave in its pursuit of perfection? How many lives did you extinguish to maintain control? You call us abominations because we refuse to die quietly. We became something new, something better." The transmission flickered, and for a brief second Elric's face seemed to merge with the ship itself, his expression blending with the patterns of light on the hull. Varen's mind raced. He could hear the officers murmuring behind him, their fear turning to dread. The human ship had dismantled their sense of security, their faith in the Empire's invincibility. "Sir," Kor whispered, "the smaller vessels, they're not independent. They're extensions of him, of it, the entire formation. It's one mind." Varen clenched his fists. "And what does one mind fear?" But before anyone could answer, the human ship shifted again. The smaller vessels folded back into the main hull, merging seamlessly. A blinding light radiated from the center, casting long shadows across the Dominion's bridge. "Sir, massive energy buildup," shouted an officer. "It's charging something big." The Admiral's pulse spiked. "All ships, prepare evasive maneuvers." Too late. A beam of light erupted from the ship, wide as a city, tearing through the formation. It didn't destroy the ships it hit. It dismantled them atom by atom, breaking them down into clouds of harmless dust. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the light vanished. In the silence that followed, the fleet hung in ruins, and Varen could only stare. The human ship floated ahead of them, silent, motionless, untouched. Then Captain Elric's voice echoed once more. "This is your first and final warning. The age of the Empire is over." And with that, the human warship dissolved into light, folding into itself and vanishing into hyperspace, leaving behind only wreckage, and the echo of something far more terrifying than defeat. The realization that the humans were no longer just surviving. They were evolving beyond comprehension. The silence that followed the human warship's disappearance was unbearable. On the bridge of the Dominion, no one spoke. The air itself felt heavy, thick with static and dread. Half of the Imperial fleet was gone. Entire squadrons erased, not destroyed in the conventional sense, but unmade, disassembled into clouds of drifting metallic dust that sparkled faintly in the starlight. The space where once 1,000 ships had stood proud was now a silent graveyard. Admiral Varen stared at the holographic projection of the battlefield, his face pale and rigid. The glow from the consoles reflected off his eyes, which were fixed on the last recorded image of the human warship before it vanished into hyperspace. A monstrous silhouette bathed in blue light, a living vessel of power beyond comprehension. He could still hear the human's words echoing in his mind. "The age of the Empire is over." Lieutenant Kor broke the silence first, her voice trembling. "Sir, I'm detecting residual energy traces. It's unlike any hyperspace signature on record. Whatever technology they're using, it's not just faster. It's intelligent. It's rewriting local spacetime to conceal their jump vector. I can't track them." Varen didn't respond. His mind was a storm of disbelief, humiliation, and fear. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire had been outmatched. Not by an alien menace, but by humans, a species they had dismissed as primitive. The great machine of imperial supremacy had met something beyond its understanding, and all their logic, science, and arrogance had failed to stop it. "Admiral," said another officer, his voice hesitant. Orders? Should we regroup with the nearest fleet? Varen turned slowly, his gaze hard and cold. Regroup with what? Half the sector's forces are gone. We'll return to base, and when we do, we tell them everything. He paused, lowering his voice, and they will not believe us. The bridge fell silent again, save for the faint hum of damaged systems limping back to life. The Dominion's engines groaned as the massive flagship turned toward home, dragging what remained of the fleet behind it like a wounded beast. Hours passed. The adrenaline had faded, replaced by exhaustion and quiet horror. Many officers stared blankly at their stations, haunted by the images of what they had seen. The way the human ship moved, the way it dismantled entire cruisers without malice, the way its captain had spoken as though he was addressing children who had outlived their usefulness. It wasn't just a defeat, it was a humiliation that cut deeper than any physical wound. Lieutenant Kor broke the uneasy silence once more. Sir, permission to speak freely? Varen glanced at her. Granted. I don't think this was an isolated incident, she said softly. That ship, it wasn't just built to fight us. It was testing us, studying us. They wanted us to see it. Varen's eyes narrowed. Explain. Kor hesitated, searching for the right words. They could have destroyed the entire fleet. They had the power, sir. That beam, it dismantled our ships molecule by molecule. They could have turned us all into dust. But they didn't. They stopped. They wanted us to witness what they're capable of. A low murmur spread across the bridge. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. It made sense, terrifying sense. The humans hadn't annihilated the fleet because they didn't need to. This had been a message, a demonstration of supremacy. Varen stood slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. Then they've made a mistake, he said, his voice hardening. They've shown us their hand. The Empire will respond. We'll rebuild, rearm, adapt. With respect, sir, Kor interrupted gently. That's what they want. He turned sharply. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. Kor looked down, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry. You heard what their captain said. Adaptation. That's what they are now. Every weapon we build, every countermeasure we design, they'll learn from it. They'll evolve faster than we can respond. It's not a war anymore, sir. It's evolution. Varen stared at her for a long moment, then turned back toward the viewport, watching the silent stars drift by. He hated her words because they rang true. The Empire had always seen itself as the pinnacle of civilization, a structure built on order, control, and dominance. But humanity had transcended that. They hadn't built machines to serve them. They had become the machines. As the fleet limped through hyperspace, the Dominion's AI systems flickered back to partial functionality. Admiral, the ship's synthetic voice announced. Incoming data stream. Origin? Unknown. Unknown? Varen repeated sharply. Explain. It's not Imperial, sir. The signal carries human linguistic markers. Every officer froze. A wave of unease rippled through the bridge. Put it through, Varen ordered. The hollow display came alive with a static-filled transmission. The image was distorted but unmistakable. It was Captain Elric again, the human commander. His expression was calm, composed, and disturbingly human. Admiral Varen, he said, his voice filling the bridge. If you are receiving this, then you survived. Good. That means you're capable of learning. What you witnessed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. We are not your enemy unless you make us one. Varen's jaw clenched. Then what are you? He muttered under his breath. Elric's eyes seemed to pierce through the static as if he could hear him. We are the future your empire denied. You sought to control evolution, to dictate which species lived and which died. You enslaved worlds in the name of stability. But stability is death. Life grows through challenge, through adaptation. We chose to evolve. You chose to stagnate. The transmission flickered, the voice momentarily distorted. There are more of us. Entire fleets. Entire worlds reborn. The Terran Armada is no longer a myth, it's a living ecosystem. Every ship you destroy only makes us stronger. Every attack teaches us. Every attempt to dominate us ensures your own extinction. And then, softer, almost kindly, tell your Emperor that humanity remembers. The transmission ended abruptly. No one spoke for a long time. The bridge was deathly silent, save for the faint hum of the engines. The words lingered in their minds like a curse. Humanity remembers. When they finally returned to Imperial space, Varen presented his report to the High Council. He stood before the Grand Chamber, surrounded by holographic displays of what little data they had salvaged. The councilors, ancient, powerful, and arrogant, listened in stony silence as he recounted the events. When he finished, the Grand Chancellor leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "So, Admiral," he said quietly, "you're telling us a single human vessel destroyed half your fleet and vanished without a trace, that it possessed intelligence and power beyond our comprehension, that it was alive." "Yes," Varen said simply. "And you expect us to believe this fairy tale?" Another counselor sneered. "Humans are extinct. Their colonies were eradicated centuries ago. Their technology was primitive compared to ours." Varen met his gaze with cold fury. "Believe what you want, but if you ignore this threat, the next time they appear, they won't just demonstrate. They'll end us." The chamber erupted in murmurs and disbelief, but Varen no longer cared. He turned and walked out, his boots echoing against the marble floor. The words of the human captain still echoed in his head. "Every attack teaches us." Weeks later, deep within the Empire's outer sectors, new reports began to surface. Faint energy signatures, fleets disappearing without distress calls, entire stations going dark. The Empire dismissed them at first as anomalies, malfunctions, pirate activity. But Varen knew better. In the quiet of his command chamber aboard the Dominion, he stared out at the stars and whispered, "They're already here." Then far away in the darkness, a faint shimmer appeared, a distortion in space, brief but unmistakable. The sensors flared for a heartbeat, picking up an impossible reading. A human warship, larger than before, drifted silently at the edge of the system. And this time, it wasn't alone.